Coonan. Hello, mate.
G'day, good morning. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's a Friday morning. What do you got planned for the weekend? Big box office for your movie, I hope.
I wouldn't be so bold to say we're going to get a big box office. Hopefully some people will get out there and have a look at it though. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
saw it. I
yeah.
caught it last week with some friends and family, which was yeah a real thrill to see your own movie up on the big screen. I've watched so many of other people's films, so being able to go to my local cinema and see it was pretty
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at the time of recording this too, I hope no one accidentally goes and sees Red One instead of the Red, because there's another movie in cinemas right now about Santa Claus going missing called Red One, and then there's your movie about a big kangaroo on the loose called The
Yes.
Red. Let's hope someone accidentally doesn't go into the wrong cinema. They'll take a family into the Red and go, "What's this?"
Look, I'd be happy if they go into the red. They might get a shock though. Yeah, very different films.
This all began, and I was unaware of this at first, but it all began as a short film about 10 years ago. Is this correct? And it's taken a long time. Was it always the plan maybe to expand it into a feature?
Yeah, well, look, to be honest, we could probably go back further than that. The first short film that I made was in 2007, called Numerka. So it was a short film set in and uses the name of the town that I grew up in, Country Victoria.
Yeah.
And that was our sort of first, jump into the zombie horror genre. I was in my 20s, a long time ago, and it was a lot more fun, sort of just throwing blood around and trying to do something that was a bit of fun, And we had a little bit of success with that. That did pretty well in some festivals, and
Yeah.
um, back in the day, SBS Shorts had a program. It played on there for a while, which was really fun.
Yeah, I
Um,
remember that.
yeah, and then we sort of we always planned or hope. I don't know if it's planned. You certainly hope that you might be able to parlay any success from a short film into a feature. Usually, you don't know how the hell to do that. Certainly, that was the case for me. So we sort of thought, well, maybe we'll do a low budget micro feature, and certainly the horror world is very accepting of low budget indie horror because
Of course.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's a ready-made audience for it, which is great. Usually very generous and supportive. So we thought we'd go that route, and then we just couldn't find. We probably didn't have the knowledge, to be honest, about how to do that. And then we got some advice just to make a another short film, but set it up primarily as a proof of concept that might be able to get some interest. In a feature project. So we embarked on the short film that was Waterborne. So that was the
Yeah.
first time our beast Rippy, a zombie kangaroo, sort of appeared on screen, and that was a fun project and played in about 80 festivals across the world. I got to travel overseas with that, and it was just a ball, like seeing people respond to something so ridiculous, really. I mean, a big marsupial
Exactly.
that's decided it wants to eat people. So that idea carried us far and wide, and then it sort of the heat sort of went off that a little bit, and then eventually we bumped into the producer Judd a few years after that had come out, and he sort of said, "Look, I might be able to get this film up and going if you're able to set it in Queensland." In a place he had a little bit of access to.
Yeah.
And at that stage of the game, myself and Richard, my producing and writing partner, we said, "Well, it's not happening anywhere else. Let's go to Queensland and do it." And then, yeah, now we find ourselves here.
Yeah, well, a Waterborne, and then it's actually changed names a few times, right? Rippy and the Red. Like, how did you decide? Did you have other titles in mind as well? How did you sort of finally decide overall?
Yeah, look, it was a conversation over email started where we went, what are we going to call this thing? Because, waterborne was a short. It was a little bit nebulous in terms of what that meant. It was a waterborne illness that created the zombie sort of virus in our sort of very undercooked lore. But
Yeah.
the uh, the idea of Rippy came up in that conversation. We all sort of felt much more comfortable with the red being based in Australia and wanting to sort
Mhm.
of anchor it to the idea of a beast, um, and the red seemed good. And I think Rippy came a little bit later when they were trying to find the best title for the overseas audience. So I think Yeah, that wasn't part of my I wasn't part of that conversation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can't really mistake it for a Kangaroo Jack sequel, when you watch the trailer.
It's so funny when you do look at some of the comments. A lot of people are drawing the comparison to maybe Kangaroo Jack fell on some harder days.
I was actually I was on set when they were filming parts of Kangaroo Jack at Fox Studios in Sydney. So me seeing Kangaroo Jack in this it was CGI, but they had sort of models as well back then. So then to see yours, the comparisons I can see.
Yeah, well, I mean, a big red kangaroo is the big comparison, isn't it? I know, we drew a lot of inspiration from, a few years ago there was a lot of imagery and memes around Roger the Red, who was a big red kangaroo in a nature park up north as well.
Right.
And he's it's just this. He's passed away now, Roger. But he's just this enormous animal, that looks like he goes to the gym 4 hours a day. And we just thought this idea of, because in the short film he was an Eastern Grey, a smaller kangaroo. And when we scaled up from the short to the feature, we thought we better scale up Rippy as well.
Were you ever worried, because there's been a saturation of zombie television, movies? Well, I mean, forever, but maybe the last decade and a half, there's been so many zombie things around. Were you worried that it might get lost or in the mix a bit? Saturation?
I mean, it's at least 15 years, to be honest. Like The Walking Dead sort of came out after our first short film. And we were like, oh, wow, we're really on the zeitgeist. Hopefully we can keep this rolling and turn it into something. And then, another 15 years later, we sort of get there, and there's been, as you say, a proliferation of zombie films, zombie TV shows. It's one of those things, as I've watched it as someone that's been involved in developing zombie stories, it's something I have been worried about, but I've also seen the audience just eat it all up. So there's something about I mean, The Red isn't your typical zombie film. It does sort of leave the zombie element pretty late, but it is something that people connect with for whatever reason.
I'm glad you said that, because I'll put a spoiler tag on the start of our video or audio, whatever, because I personally wasn't picking up on the zombie element until the end, or towards the end. It wasn't as much as I'm sure it was there. There was clues. I wasn't picking up on it, and in particular the way it ended. So, I liked how you did it. You kind of kept it low key for a while.
Yeah, that was the plan, was always to sort of, set it up as a creature feature and have, I guess that Jaws model of less is more.
Yeah.
When you're making sort of lower budget indie stuff, your resources are always tight. I mean, as I understand it, your resources are always tight on every film. But certainly we knew we weren't going to probably be able to show as much of the beast as, we hoped. So, we tried to follow that sort of blueprint. And that kind of, led us down the path of sort of dropping a few breadcrumbs, and then, leaving it till a little bit later in the film.
The town you used, was it a town, or it was a very compact, cool little town, but it looked perfect. Was it an actual town or a set?
Oh, mate, I'm so glad for you to say that. It looks like a little backlot studio.
It did. That's what I thought it might have been at Warner Brothers.
Yeah, no, it was. We got so lucky. We actually had planned to shoot most of it in this town, Krakow, in Queensland, and for various reasons we weren't able to actually lock down that location, even though we'd recce'd it and we thought we were going to be there. So 3 days before we started shooting there, our location manager found this place. I think it was called Old Petrie Town. It's like a ye oldie type sort of town that's been put together about 45 minutes outside of Brisbane.
Okay.
And so we found that, and we were just, what a miracle it was, because it was this quaint little town that was, ready made for us to sort of, move in and shoot the scenes we needed there. So, yeah, we got very lucky.
Yeah, no, it looked great. When I was watching the shots, it just looked like it might have been pre-built, but
it was, not for us, but yeah. yeah, it worked well for us.
There was a lot of sounds as well. The audio in this is really strong. You know straight away of the distinct birds, and the animals in the bush. Was that already there, or did you add to it because it just seemed so natural? It was good.
Oh, thank you. Look, Sasha, our sound designer, and Brian as well, our composer, and did a lot of the sound work as well. Those two guys as a team, they effectively did all the sound that you hear in the film, and just did an incredible job. There's sort of like a I don't know if you'd call it a hero voice, but I think it's an Eastern Koal. We don't get them down in Melbourne, but when I first heard that, I went, "What is that? It sounds like some sort of crazy monkey." And he said he got woken up one day by this sound and grabbed his recorder because he goes, that'll be perfect for something. Yeah. That was Brian, and then he presented it to me and Sasha, and we went, yeah, well, it's a really sort of unnerving sound. And then we layered a heap of other sort of natural animal sounds in along the way. Because when you isolate them, like the Australian bush is terrifying at night.
Well, yeah, this is why I was wondering whether you captured it or you sort of added some stuff.
It was a bit of we augmented it. We captured a lot of it, but it was really layered up to I guess accentuate the natural terror that is present when you stop and let all the sounds settle in when you're out in the dark.
Yeah, well, we don't only have the most dangerous animals in the world, in general. We have the freakiest sounds when you're out and about as well.
Oh, 100%. I listened to a lot of animal sounds when we were trying to, come up with the sound design, and the marsupials are the craziest. Just like the sounds. I mean, the sounds kangaroos naturally make, horrifying. It's like a grunty sort of bark growl. Koalas make an insane sound. Tasmanian devils, possums. So we had a lot to work with.
The platypus, if you didn't know, makes a screeching sound.
I did hear the platypus as well. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Not many people hear that because it's underwater.
Yeah, yeah. I did hear that. I did a lot of researching animal sounds, and yeah, they're all pretty insane.
Well, speaking of sounds, how did you decide on the sound of Rippy, our big kangaroo, our red? Because it was a bit werewolf at times.
Yeah, look, we sort of in the short film we sort of I guess we were a little bit more limited when making the short film, and it felt very sort of dinosaur, bear, panther, predator sort of growls, which worked really well, to be honest. Like you sort of juxtapose those sounds with a little kangaroo trying to nip at you, and it's kind of, funny and scary. For this one, we sort of dug in to try to find some really good reference of kangaroos grunting. And there's just not a lot of it. There's a few things around, and you can find it on YouTube and different places, but there was very few really clean references for it. Not that we wanted to do it exactly, we wanted to sort of twist it a little bit. So we ended up sort of layering up. There's different moods that we sort of set with his sort of vocal range, and there's elements where he's a bit more inquisitive. There's elements where he's definitely decided he's locked onto something, and then there's elements where he's going to hopefully try to rip your throat out. So, and all the animals I referenced previous, probably not the platypus, but possibly Sasha might have chucked it in there, to be honest. I'm not sure. All of those sort of play a role at different times in the film to help give voice to our beast. Yeah.
Okay. I was wondering how you came up with that, because it was very distinct and it was different to what we'd heard previous.
Combination of lots of different animals. Yeah.
And sticking with the red, the vision. Now, kangaroo vision. that was interesting too. I wasn't expecting that, and it was kind of focused in a way. It was blurry on the sides and focused in the middle. Is that something else that you had to research, or you just decided on?
Look, we researched to a point. Kangaroos apparently have pretty good eyesight.
Yeah.
And not too dissimilar from my research, to what we might see. But what we wanted to do was give a sense that, he's also died and then reanimated, and that might have an impact on his vision.
Good point. Yeah, I wasn't even thinking of that. Yeah.
So, you know, you do, as something as ridiculous as a, you know, a zombie kangaroo film, you find yourself in these conversations around, you know, what degeneration might happen to the eyesight of, you know, a kangaroo after he's died and then reanimated.
Yeah, yeah.
But look, honestly, I remember watching Cujo years ago when we made the short film, and
Right.
what I found really worked well in that film was the POV shots of Cujo.
Yeah.
So we did that in the short film that worked, and it was something I wanted to do in the feature. You know, to give, you know, a sense of, you know, where he's looking, and that, you know, he might see you at any moment, and just to differentiate the, you know, the world of where we are watching him versus, you know, his subjective sort of view.
Yeah.
We thought it'd be good to affect the Rippy vision, as we called it.
That director who made Cujo, he also directed a movie called Cat's Eye, and that had cat vision, very similar to
Ah, there you
Cujo.
go. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have not
So
seen that. Yeah.
yeah, it's an anthology. It's an anthology of movies based on Stephen King stories, but same director from Cujo went on and did Cat's
Yeah.
Eye and used that same technique.
Yeah, right. Oh, good tip. I obviously ripped them off as well.
Now, were you in any sets at night? Because I wasn't sure. If not, what hazards did you have working on location? Anyone get hurt? Any injuries? Did you have any
No, look,
unexpected visitors?
it's incredible how dangerous a film set can be. I mean, because people are working really hard, and
Mm,
people are really focused on their task.
mm,
And when you're at night and you're tired, certainly you get to the end of the shoot. You know,
yeah,
that's a real thing that happens. Is you know, danger does sort of creep in, the sense of it. But we had incredible crew, and people that were aware of that. So we did see a couple of kangaroos when we were shooting out late at night come through the set, and that was kind of freaky and cool at the same time.
yeah.
There's plenty of snakes around, obviously. I mean, I can walk down the suburb in Melbourne and see, you know, a snake most days. So when you're in the outback Queensland, there was plenty of creepy crawlies floating around, and yeah, thankfully no incidents, no problems. But to answer your question around the sets, we had planned to shoot a lot outside,
Yeah.
on location in Krakow, and Queensland at that stage, I think, like, legitimately they were experiencing some sort of strange weather event, and it felt like it was the third, you know, once in 100 years storm in 18 months,
Wow.
to the point where we got flooded out. You know, we had to push our schedule. Ultimately
Yeah.
ended up being 6 months from the time we'd planned to shoot, just because the weather absolutely just kicked our butts. And we lost a lot of locations because of that,
Right.
lost a lot of time. And it kind of makes you nervous when you're shooting a film outside at night. So we were lucky enough to transition quite a few scenes into the Screen Queensland studios in Brisbane. And our art department just did an incredible job. Like, there's large portions of the sequences where they're hunting Rippy are all inside a studio. Like, I was terrified. I'd never shot inside a studio. You sort of see these things and you go, well, is this just going to look ridiculous? We're
Mm.
shooting inside, you know, what is a big shed with some dried branches, and you know, the production designer Joe assured me that it'd be okay, and then we
Yeah.
watched them build this massive forest inside, with a road, and yeah, so we ended up shooting quite a lot inside, which was incredible. And you know, realistically, I forget sometimes when I see it. I'm like, that shot I know was outside. That shot, hang on a second, no, that was inside the studio. Um, yeah, so
Yeah.
it was weird.
I mean, for the untrained eye, it'd be harder to tell. But I mean, I was sort of picking it here and there, and even then, I was questioning it because it was so well done. So the production designer certainly, uh, realistically set it up immaculate, like you wouldn't know. But I was looking for things, but that's just what I do for my
Oh
work.
yeah, I think if you're looking, you probably there's probably a few
Yeah,
clues
yeah,
rather,
yeah.
but yeah, for the most part, I mean, like I said, it still tricks me. They did an incredible job. Like, I think they made something like 150 trees where they wrapped big, like, carpet rolls, I think, tubes in all real bark. So, you know, you're looking at them and they don't have heaps of branches, but as
No,
texture
no.
and background, they just look like trees. So yeah, it was pretty cool what they did.
Wow, did you say texture? That's interesting.
Texture, yeah.
Oh, texture. I thought
Yeah,
you
with
said
the real
they
bark, yeah.
coloured it in with texture.
Probably
I'm
use
going, hang on a
texture
minute.
as well, yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Still on set, the catering, did they serve up kangaroo steaks and kangaroo sausages and anything like that? Was roux on the menu?
No, no. What a missed opportunity. We didn't really theme we didn't really theme our catering. Yeah.
So you need me on set for these things, right?
Yeah, we really need to get you involved next time.
Was it a hard movie to fund? Like funding as it is pretty hard with indie films, even harder in Australia. Did you, how did you fund it? Was it an indie go-go, production? Did you have to get donations, or was it financed? How did you manage to get the
Look,
funds together to film it?
we had a our producer Judd pulled together the financing with help through the executive producers and a financing group
Wow,
called
cool.
Alcyon. So yeah, I mean, it was a real gift to be honest, because yeah, before making the red and subsequent to making the red, the process of trying to get funds for a film is not an easy one.
And you're a debut director, right? This is your debut feature?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, short films, and I've done a little bit
Yeah,
of theatre, but yeah, this is my first feature film. Yeah, yeah, and I've
yeah.
been wanting to do it for a long time. It's just yeah, it's not an easy thing to do to get a film up. I mean, this one felt like a miracle to get it in the can, and then to finish it felt like another miracle, and the fact that it ended up in cinemas feels like another miracle. And you know,
True.
I listen to other people that have made films, and those are things I hear now. Everyone sort of sees their film as a miracle by the time it's finished, because they're so hard to
Oh,
do.
yeah. And like you said, it's in cinemas. Anything can just go straight to streaming today, no matter how good it is, or how bad it is. But you made it into an auditorium that people can go and see in a great
Oh,
atmosphere. How movies
no.
should be seen. That's how I think. Anyway, movies should be seen there, of course.
Well, I mean, I grew up loving movies, like going to the cinema, going to the drive-in, and
Yeah,
when you start making films, that's what you crave. You want to see them on the big screen. There's
yeah,
something more
yeah,
magical about that, that shared experience of sitting there watching a film um, and to have it play, yeah, like you said, in an auditorium in a cinema was just yeah, it's something you hope for and something that is increasingly hard to do. 'Cause like you say, there's so many films that are great films, but and there's big conversations in Hollywood at the moment, people really fighting
yeah,
to get their films in cinemas because they want the theatrical experience. They want their films to be seen by people because
yeah.
that's what filmmakers want. So yeah, it would. I mean, you start making a film about a zombie kangaroo, you hope for the best. You don't
Yeah,
always, you don't, dare to dream that it's going to be in a cinema. So to get it in cinemas right across Australia,
yeah.
as well, was just yeah, amazing, amazing.
I haven't even touched on the cast yet. I want to ask about casting, but firstly, you just sort of mentioned it briefly. Then, so tell me how you became a filmmaker in general. You were going to movies as a kid. Were you sneaking out and watching movies, or do you remember some of the first movies that inspired you?
Well, yeah, I mean, look, I was born in '76, so arguably, coming off the back end of the heyday of cinema, really, and then right into the
Right into the
'80s,
'80s.
'80s and early '90s of like just movies for boys, really like the Stallone and the Schwarzenegger and Bruce Willis and Michael Bean,
Yeah,
and
Michael Bean, of course.
so for me, my love of movies started like a lot of people, I guess. I mean, we didn't have a cinema in the town I grew up in. So there
Right.
was the drive-in in Shepparton that I remember going and seeing some films at, which was always, an amazing experience. But I really didn't fall in love with movies in a way that I thought I might be able to be involved in, or even dared to dream until I really moved down to Melbourne and sort of
Yeah.
went to uni. And one of my mates, Chris, he was a real cinephile, and he sort of took it upon himself to school me in the world of cinema, which I just loved. And every week he would give me a list of films that I need to go and watch. And at that stage, I could go down to the video store and hire, I think it was 20 films for $7 or something, especially the older ones, not the new releases. So he just gave me
yeah,
a list a
yeah.
week of films I needed to go and watch, and that sort of, was a good year or two of my education of watching films. And I'd always done theatre. I'd done theatre in, growing up in school. And I really love that. Like, I love the process of performing and putting on shows. And then really something clicked for me in my early 20s, and I went, I really love movies, and I wonder if there's a chance of having the same fun of making a show, putting a show on, getting
Yeah.
together with like-minded people and translate that into film. So I started making short films, and then, yeah, it's just been I guess a love affair for the last sort of 20 years of trying to do that.
I used to spend up to like 2 hours in a video shop making sure it was 10 for like $10 or whatever it was. I'd be making sure I got the ones I wanted, and I'd be picking and choosing and putting some back on the shelf and then going back to it. That I did the same thing.
What
Yeah.
a joy! What a joy! I can't believe we don't have that now. I mean, I've spent countless hours in video stores. That was half
Yeah.
the fun, was going to choose one, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Seeing
Yeah.
who was in this one, and then tracking them and seeing if there was someone else. And
Yeah.
yeah, we've really lost that, unfortunately. Not quite the same, just flicking through Netflix and looking at a thumbnail.
Yeah. I don't want to write off the streaming completely because, yeah, it's not quite the same, but there's still some quality movies. And if it wasn't for streaming, we wouldn't be able to go back and watch some. Like, I'm watching movies from the 70s, 80s, 90s that aren't even available on DVD or Blu-ray
Yeah.
sometimes. So
Oh,
I do like
100%. Like,
I like that aspect of it.
and the access to it. Like,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, as much as I lament the process of, not being able to go and wander a
Yeah.
video store, like
Yeah.
being able to sort of, pull up an app on your phone even, or your TV, and then have
Exactly.
access to, countless films, is
Yep.
is pretty cool. I mean, there's the new streaming service, I think Umbrella put out, Broly.
Yeah.
Like, I looked at that just the other day, and I went, oh my God, another whole catalog of amazing international films and local films that's
Yeah.
just right there for me.
Yeah, we're blessed. I mean, in
Yeah,
per capita, I think in Australia and New Zealand, we have more streaming services and opportunities, and free ones too,
yeah.
that we have access to more than anywhere else in the world. So, yeah, I'm pretty happy about that, loving movies as much as I do.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, it's very cool. Yeah, it's very cool. I certainly exploit and take advantage of all the streaming
Do you have
services.
a director's chair with your name on it yet, or
Ah,
not quite?
I think after my first short film, my wife bought me one of those, and it's
Nice.
been collecting cobwebs in the shed ever since. It was
Oh,
not something quite so self-aggrandizing as sitting on a director's chair at home. So
yeah.
yeah, that's me. I do have one, but it's in the shed.
You should have brought it in for the rap party of the Red.
Mate, I
That
didn't
would
get
have
to
been
sit
fun.
down. I don't. I think I remember sitting down twice, and that was borderline passing out on the shoot. So there was
Yeah.
no need for chairs, and the rap party was very similar. I was so exhausted by the end of that shoot.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine. What sort of director are you on the set? Did you have the megaphone? Were you walking around pacing, or, I mean, were you very articulate? How would you describe yourself as a director?
Oh wow. Yeah. Well, let's go with very articulate and and incredible. No, I was fortunate enough to come from doing some theatre. So you become comfortable talking to
Sure,
actors.
yeah, sure.
You become comfortable talking about moments, beats, story. Like these are weird conversations to people that don't engage in these sort of activities. But so for me, I feel like I love working with actors. I just love story. I love the theory. I love the different perspectives. I love people's psychology, connecting with the story. So
Yeah,
personally for me, I feel really comfortable in that space.
yeah,
And, I was fortunate enough to have lots of experiences previous to making films where I've, derived some experience. At the same time, you want to bring a technical proficiency to filmmaking as well.
mm,
You don't want to end up, being on set and not knowing what a 50 mm lens opposed to an 85 is going to do. And
yeah,
so I, through making the short films, I was able to educate myself. I must admit though, from a technical position rather, what I loved and what I didn't really realize until I shot the film is how much you can just lean on incredible other practitioners and craftspeople and
yeah,
talented artists. So my DP Chris Bland has been a friend of mine. We started shooting short films 20 years ago, and he's just an incredible operator, incredible human, full stop, and then incredible operator in terms of what he does. So I didn't need to feel any of the pressure or the stress of being a director in that visual component. We spent a lot of time in determining what we wanted it to look like, how we wanted to move the camera, where we wanted to put the camera. So by the time we got to set, he would do a lot of checking in with me. He's like, this is where we're going. This is what we talked about. I'm like, yeah, please go for it, Blandy.
Cool.
You do your thing now. So it allowed me to sort of focus on the 1,000 other things at any one point in time. So tried to be present, I guess, as much as possible and be there for the actors, who were just so incredibly lucky to have. So, I say be there. I just needed to try to move stuff out of their way for them to do their thing. So I think if I was describing myself as a director, it'd be someone that's just trying to not impose themselves too much, to let people do their best work.
Nice. Yeah. Well, that's good to hear. I mean, if you can relate to your actors, that's one of the biggest steps. And then knowing the correct lenses, that helps too.
It does. Yeah.
There's a lot of Coonans in the thank yous, in the credits. Obviously, it's a family affair, helping you out.
It always has been, especially making short films in my hometown where I've made, most of my short films, to be honest. I mean, the whole town's super supportive.
That's good.
Yeah, and my family, in particular. So yeah, my mum's there, my siblings are there, my wife's there, my kids are there. In fact, one of my favorite moments of the whole film was we needed to loop some crowd noises for the pub scenes, because they were just feeling a bit flat, and Brian and Sasha were like, how are we going to get this? And they said, well, we can take these noises and get these, voiceovers done. And we said, we just need a group to come together. And I went, well, I can probably do that. So in my lounge room, we played the film on silent and all those scenes, and had my kids and some of their friends and my wife and some of her friends.
Oh, cool.
My sister all be the pub crowd. So
cool.
It was great. I got to conduct their screams and their yelling and their chatter. Yeah, so it did feel like a real
it did
a family.
Yeah, like I said, sound was particularly big in this movie. I was noticing it, so it was really well edited and well done, put together.
Yeah, thank you.
Now the cast in general, Michael Beihn, we've talked about him briefly before, about part of the 80s and 90s. How the hell did you cast him? Because his character is even a little bit out there and offbeat.
Yeah.
How did you get him to this role?
Mate, it's so bizarre even talking about it now. I mean, we've known each other a couple of years now, and we were exchanging texts a couple of weeks ago about the opening, and so it's just so weird that that Michael Behn's one of my mates, and I've worked with him. But because I was just a fan, like just a straight up fan. I've said a couple of times, he's one of those faces that you go into the video store and during that period, and if you see his face,
he's there. He's on the cover.
It's going to be good, because I've seen him in Terminator, Aliens. So if his face pops up in Tombstone, you know that's going to be good. Another amazing classic. And
Navy SEALs,
exactly. Yeah, like what an incredible run he did. Like I loved him in The Rock as well. Like what a
yeah.
So yeah, aside from fanboying about how amazing he is as an actor and his body of work, again, Judd the producer we were floating ideas, and he just said, I think I've got a way of getting the script to Michael Beihn. Okay. Would you be interested? And I was like Michael Beihn, of course. And we left it at that. I mean, sometimes these things are all just brainstorming and they never go anywhere. Go away. Yeah, that's right. But within 2 days of that conversation, he'd read the script and said that he wanted to meet with us. So myself and Richard, we went, well, my God, what are we going to do? Like, how do we handle this? So Richard was less nervous than me, I should be fair to say, but I was nervous. And then, so we jumped on a Zoom with him. And he just immediately put us at ease. He just said, look, I really like the script. I read it twice.
That's good.
It's not what I expected from something, at that stage, I think it was called Zombaroo on the, the front title page.
Yeah.
And yeah, he pretty much just said, I'm in, I want to do it. And that blew our minds. And that really started the process of probably 6 months, to be honest, because we workshopped the script with him. He was so generous with his time and insights, and he's
Good.
worked with some pretty incredible directors and filmmakers over his career. So he spent a lot of time with us, actually, just really mentoring us in terms of not just what was great development stuff for his character, but the whole script. Like, he was so generous, and his family, Jen, and his son Dashiel's in the film as well. So it was just it was really cool having him on board, and he offered a lot to the project. And yeah, not to mention, it's always great when you're hearing stories about, this is what James Cameron did when I was in a similar situation.
Oh.
James Cameron did this. I was like, oh yeah, great.
Wow.
No pressure.
Yeah, well, you're not the first Melbourneian director he's worked with. He was in a movie called The Seventh Sign with Demi Moore and Jürgen Prochnow, and that was directed by Carl Schultz, who spent a lot of time in America, but he was based in and lived in Melbourne as a filmmaker for a long time before he made the seventh.
There you go,
Yeah.
man. What an education you're giving me.
Seventh Sign.
Yeah, I love that film. I remember that film. I really
Yeah.
liked it. I didn't know there was another Melbourne connection though. So yeah, that's
There's
really
another
cool.
Melbourne connection. So there you go.
That's really cool.
Look, goes without saying without, just Tess as a lead is incredible. But Angie Miliken as well, she's never really stopped working, but I remember her, 30 years ago in a movie with Richard Roxburgh called Talk, back in the day. So she's been around forever too. To have her in your movie is just amazing as well.
I mean, I
love
can't.
her.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I just love Angie. She's such a beautiful person, incredibly professional. Like, just sort of like set the standard in terms of just how to prep and how to be on set. And her body of work, films, television, and theater is just out of control. And we were so lucky to have her on board. I mean, her and Aaron were in Dead Heart together all those years ago as well.
All those, same era as Talk, actually.
Yeah.
Her and Aaron Pederson, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, it was great having them. Like, they're old mates, so it was great having them on set together.
Yeah, Aaron was good. He wasn't in it long enough. I think he came to an end pretty quick. We're talking spoilers, so I don't mind saying that.
Yeah.
But Tess, I mean, I've interviewed her a couple of times now, and I've watched her career sort of blossom, and she's done so many different things. She doesn't stick to the same kind of roles. How was she being your lead? And I mean, you would have worked closely together, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, she's a powerhouse, right? Like, she brings, I mean, she's striking in terms of, like, she's a tall, incredibly beautiful, woman who really, she's someone that when they walk in the room.
Empowering screen presence too. So in person, but can double that up on screen.
Yeah, absolutely. And, she just 100% threw herself at everything, at every scene. She wanted to do more stunts. She wanted to, at one point we there's a scene where she has to carry a battery, and the art department had put in a light battery, and she's like, "What is this? Do we have an actual battery?" Because she, and I was like, "Yeah, they're pretty heavy, and you've got to run with it." And she's like, "Get me the proper battery." So we got her the old dirty heavy, and that was very typical of her. She just she literally just jumped in the deep end at every chance. And
well, that doesn't surprise me. She was in a movie with Jackie Chan.
Yeah,
so
that's right. Yeah,
doesn't surprise me whatsoever with her on set.
Yeah, and the stunt guys actually were on that film and knew Tess, and they said she was exactly the same on that project as well.
Yeah. Now, wrapping it up, the finale sort of is at a pub. You can't get much more Australian than that.
Well, they're the community halls, right, of small towns. I mean, even the small town I grew up in had three, but they are the social gathering places. For a lot of small towns, and the town that we spent some time in, Krakow, the whole town is pretty much just a pub. There's a gold mine, but a lot of the workers are fly in, fly out. It's just a pub. Theodore, which is a little bit further along, we stayed at. There's a small township there, and it all revolves around the pub as well. So when we were writing the story, it was just an obvious location where we sort of, wanted to fall back to, where the community was. That was tough too, because we'd set up our whole, the pub is actually a set. So we shot all that in studio. And we'd set up, the whole fascia of the building to match the original exterior that we lost 3 days before we started shooting. So our art department had to, really pull one out of the hat, because they basically adjusted the whole facade of that building to then match the pub that we shot out the front of in Old Peachtree. So, it was an amazing job. Yeah.
And it just makes sense, the movies at the end, and the kangaroo would end up at a watering hole.
That's right.
That's what they do.
That's it. Yeah. Well, in the interest of spoiling it all, that our sort of animation in our text sequence sort of tracks the evolution of Rippy becoming a zombie, and that's exactly what happens. He drinks some contaminated water and animates. Yeah.
A lot of good use of I guess drones. You were using drones at times, and in and around places, because I mean that's the miracle of drones. I guess you can just throw a camera up there and it looks like you're in a Hollywood studio almost. It's fantastic. You capture everything.
I mean, they've brought so much to sort of lower budget indie films. You do see them all the time. Like, I must admit, every time I see the same shots that we've got, I've gone, of course, of course you need to,
I notice it in everything now.
But in the moment when you're planning shots to tell the story, and you often use them as transition points and ways to show people traveling and the vastness. It was just a tool that was not available to us, even 10 years ago, because you had to either have the heavy lifter drones, which were expensive and needed a couple of operators, or a helicopter now. Yeah, and someone said the other day, they said, "Did you have a helicopter?" And I went, "No, it was just like a little drone," but incredible quality that comes out of them. And for us, it was important to really sort of set the world in the vastness of the Australian outback as well, just to show how remote it was. And some of the scenery up around where we shot those exteriors is just gorgeous.
Yeah, it's unique. I mean, you can be probably 3 or 4 kilometers away and you'd have a whole new different type of scenery. That's what Australia's so known for.
Yeah, it's amazing. So we're lucky to capture them.
Yeah, well, did well. The couple more before we wrap up. Are you in it? Is there a cameo from the director?
No, I did. There was a couple of times where it was like, oh, if you want to be in it, this would be the point in time. And I always thought in the back of my head, it'd be nice if the opportunity presents, just to sort of, walk through.
Just be in the pub in the background.
And that was the plan. That was the opportunity a couple of times. A lot of the crew's in the background. Half the pub extras are the crew, most of the time. But seriously, what a revelation in terms of how busy directing a film is. Every time that opportunity came up, I found myself just going, for what possible purpose would I rather than have to go over there and still be thinking about all this stuff over here? So I think if I ever get the chance to do it again, it would have to be something a bit more planned, or just spur of the moment where it allowed itself to sort of happen, but not in this one. Firmly behind the camera.
And inevitable question, what's next for the Red? That finale. I mean, I don't know the actor's name, but the actor who's the mortician, or the guy,
Don Bridges.
I don't know his name, and I feel bad about that, but I see him in so many different things. It was great. And so what's next for the Red?
Well, for starters, I'd love to work with Don again. He's one of those legends. For anyone that's done a short film in Melbourne, you sort of want Don Bridges. Everyone goes to him. He's been in so many TV, so many great films, for decades.
That's why I'm embarrassed I don't know his name. I should know it.
Oh, and he's just, it sounds like I'm just being overly, complimentary, but he was in my short film, Waterborne, as well. So was Martin Bloom, who's one of the first miners that gets killed. So it was so nice to have them in the feature. He's an absolute legend. But what's next? We're trying to see what happens at the end of this. Hopefully it'll allow us, a little bit of a profile that might make it easier to set up some other projects we're definitely working on a sort of psychological thriller at the moment, and
Okay.
trying to pull finance together for that at the moment. And
In
yeah.
Australia, or are you going broadening your horizons overseas?
No, I mean, if the opportunity presents itself, I'd certainly have that conversation. But yeah, no, very keen to work in Australia. I'd be really keen to work in Victoria, to be honest.
Yeah.
Just to be home. I spent a lot of time away from my family, shooting the red. So, yeah, look, whatever comes, whatever comes. Very. I wasn't sure if I wanted to make another film at the start of it, and in the middle of it, I wasn't sure. And now that it's all said and done,
Mm.
yeah, I'm still very keen to sort of get out there and have another crack at it if I can.
I think you'll get more eyes on it, as we were talking about earlier, with streaming. I mean, you're going to get some reaction while it's in the cinemas now, and I'm really trying to get people out there to see it for you. But I think realistically, you'll probably get more people starting to talk about it once it's streaming. Or is there a physical media, opportunity coming up? Maybe.
Yeah, I think off the top of my head, it's 3rd of December that they're going to do a Blu-ray DVD release. I think the streaming's going to be around the same time.
Great.
In terms of available to hire and download.
Great.
I'm not sure where it'll land in terms of Australian streamers, but certainly that's something that people are trying to organise.
Great.
And yeah, it's a weird experience going to the cinemas. I always grew up looking at the posters at the cinemas, and cinemas are a different beast these days. Like
Well, they're electronic posters mostly.
yeah, and I always had the fantasy of sort of, buying a ticket from a person, and you really now you're sort of pressing a thumbnail on a screen, and
Yeah.
yeah. So I think you're right. I think ultimately the space to get more eyes on it will be streaming.
Yeah.
So yeah, I look forward to that as well.
Well, on this Blu-ray release, is there an alternative ending? Did you think of ending it a different way at all, or any deleted scenes we might see?
I don't think so. We certainly discussed lots of different alternative endings. We'd written a couple. We weren't able to shoot them.
Right,
just
right.
the nature of running out of time and money is a heartbreaking process on set. So you kind of forget that. And the ending is the ending. That's what everyone will see. But yeah, there was certainly some other endings planned that we didn't quite get to, and how we sort of edited the ending was discussed a lot, but we sort of landed where we did.
Yeah.
Teasing the idea of the story continues.
Well, Nathan Jones,
Oh, of course.
he's like, help, or whatever he said. He said, hello.
Yeah, that's right. Well, yeah, because it was funny because in the writing of that we went, we wanted this red herring of this
Yes.
very obvious sort of judging a book by its cover mistake that Maddie
Yeah.
makes, and then we sort of put him in jail, and everyone feels like it's okay. And then as we got closer and closer to the end of the story, well, what are we going to do with this character, Reuben? And it sort of played out best that especially when we got Nathan, because talk about a striking presence. Oh my God,
Well, he's a gentle giant.
he's a beautiful man, and
Yeah.
and a very very large man. So when we had this idea of casting him, and the fact that he came on board was just brilliant, because he was shooting Mad Max at the time, so we were back
Yeah.
and forth seeing if we could get him. And then once we had him, we thought, well, let's tease at the end that he's still around, and he's the kind of guy you might want in a zombie apocalypse, in the middle of the outback. So
Yeah. I was half expecting a spaceship to come down, and kangaroos from space or something, but that would have been too much.
yeah, no, that wasn't one of our alternatives. It would be cool though, a very thing ending. Yeah.
And for anyone, just so they know, the dog lives as well. The dog lives.
The dog lives. We
It's very important.
have some alternative versions of that as well, but yeah, we decided to
Yeah.
keep everybody happy and keep Ralphie alive.
Good move. Good
Yeah.
move, Brian.
Yeah.
Finally, in your own words, I always like to ask this question: why should people watch your movie? Why should people choose your movie? I know it's a great genre film. I'll attest to that. But in general, what can you say that the movie will bring to people who choose to watch it, either at the cinema or streaming, whatever it might be?
Yeah, look, I would love anyone just to watch it, to spend their time and all their money. Is an incredible privilege to have anyone watch it. So I would hope that what they get out of it is a little bit of fun. I mean, it's a ridiculous idea. To see that idea come to fruition is something that you probably won't forget. And you know, we tried to infuse it with a sense of the people being a little bit real. So, I mean, ostensibly it's a B movie idea, right? It's a zombie kangaroo, but we tried to put some heart in there in terms of the characters really being cared for in that sort of small town. So
Yeah.
you know, hopefully a little bit of fun, a bizarre idea that you won't forget, and yeah, a good way to spend 83 minutes, hopefully.
It's surprisingly politically correct as well in many ways, your movie. I mean, go back to Razorback, right? That pig wasn't a zombie bush pig, but it was there was bruise shooters and it was very offensive. And I know it's a thing of its time and it's a great Aussie film, creature feature. But you kept yours, considering the subject matter, pretty like politically correct. I mean, even those guys at the start get kicked out of the pub and all that. So it's interesting that the levels of things have changed with creature features.
It is. It's a weird thing because a few people have sort of said that, and you know, I saw someone accuse it of being like another woke film, and
Well, it's not that. There's no way.
no, and but it is. It's weird. I think things have changed a little bit. I mean, Richard and I writing it, we didn't have one conversation about that. So it is, yeah. They become what it is. I guess we're all a product of the environment that we live in, and things change a little bit.
You know, you should have a tagline on your poster: "Adults only, Kangaroo Jack." That might get some people in.
Yeah, well, that's been a lot of what people are sort of